Okay, good morning, and you're very welcome. Michael Hoyne, founder of Merlin Showers, and Pete Smyth, CEO of Broadlake. I'd just like to say, firstly, congratulations on your deal with Norcros. Sometimes these types of deals, they're kept private and nobody knows because it's a PLC in the UK. 60 million sterling, fantastic deal, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Michael, if we could start with you. 3 years ago, you were sitting in the audience here and you were contemplating next steps for the business, and you met Pete afterwards. So maybe take us from there.
Yeah, I came here 3 years ago. It was mergers and acquisitions. It was something that we had thought about, didn't have any experience, and it was an opportunity of coming to listen to people who had it done. Pete happened to be one of the speakers there, and it was after that I just gave him my card, and we said must have a coffee sometime. And it was as simple as that. That's how the relationship started.
And tell me, had you been thinking about bringing in an outside partner at the time, or outside equity, or what kind of drove you to bring on to the next stage?
If I'm honest about it, we had a problem. One of our non-executive directors passed away, unfortunately, and I was looking to replace him, and that was kind of my thought process, and definitely came to that without any ideas of looking for equity in that. And then we had the conversation with Pete. I listened to the Broadlake story. I think he listened to the Merlin story. I think we got on well. I think we liked each other. And short time after that, I was made an offer, and we went from there.
Brilliant, brilliant. Now, Pete, when you think back 3 years ago, what attracted you to the investment in Merlin?
Yeah, I guess when I met Michael first, we met for a coffee a week later. That coffee went on for about 2 hours, and at the end of it, Michael said to me, he said, yeah, I don't know what we do next. I don't know where this can go, if anywhere. And I said, well, listen, I actually think your business has all the ingredients to go somewhere materially in terms of growth. And it wasn't just the kind of profitability numbers or the sales numbers, but from hearing Michael talk, it was the ambition, not just from him, but within the team that he talked about. It was the ability to look at things differently. You know, everybody in that sector was looking at things one way. They wanted to manufacture the product and then figure out how they sold it. Michael from day one was always focused on the value-added parts of the business in terms of building a brand, looking at the development, and then looking at how you can get the most efficient supply chain to back that up. So he was looking at things different. There was a lot of ambition there. And the way he spoke about his people, I knew that when I'd walk in the door in Kilkenny into the head office, that it would be the kind of place that we could work with, and the kind of people and the team and the ambition. So not stuff on the balance sheet, all the other types of stuff in terms of brand, culture, people.
Okay, Michael, maybe just touching on that point, tell us a little bit how Merlin did do things differently from a business perspective.
Yeah, we're in the supply end, and a lot of our competitors in that would actually build their own factories and invest a lot of money in that. We don't have any factories, and our idea was that what we believed we were good at was sales and marketing and product. And how we started it, we went to Europe. We found an Italian company who was a very good manufacturer, but they were useless at selling. So it was a great partnership from our point of view. We stayed with them for a long time. 2003 was the first time I went to Asia. Went to a show in Shanghai. I was there an hour. Said to myself, we have to be in China. Didn't know what it was going to be, and we actually developed from there. And then we had a currency issue in 2008. We were buying in euros, selling in sterling. Is a big problem for us. Luckily enough, we were the type of people that we were always looking forward. You know, the whole China thing, quality wasn't great in 2003. And we kind of spent a lot of time in China working with the Chinese, good factories, bad factories. But again, as Pete said, we like to do things differently. A lot of people would do quality in China, but we put our own people, we employed our own people there, some Chinese, some Irish, to make sure that the product, so Partnership, it was mentioned a lot with even John Delaney and the other speakers about partnership. To us, partners were very important to us, because what we could do for factories is that we could give them orders every week. China at that time, it was new to them, and so over time now we have five major factories in China. We work with them very closely. We have our own people in there working with them, and we also find at the end of every year we sit down with them, explain to them, we say we're in the fashion business, products are changing and that, and we tell them exactly if we have a range that's kind of getting slower. We explain to them, we think in 6 months this thing, but we've new products. We're developing 24 months ahead of the product that's required. So that's kind of one of the things. The other thing then was channels. We started in the UK the same day as we started in Ireland. When we started the business, we went to retail, which was a higher margin. The cake in England is, if you split it, 25% retail, 25% DIY, and 50% merchant. We didn't play in the merchant business. And when we looked at our competitors and that, a lot of them they were all in around 10, 14 million. So we kind of stood back and looked at it, how actually can we be different? So what we came up with was different products for different channels. So we were able to supply into about 4 or 5 channels with different products, where our competitors were selling one product range into all the channels. So you had the retailers who were looking for high margins. They were complaining about the merchant who was selling at a smaller margin. So we always kind of looked at that, and then developing products, we looked at it how, we're dealing with glass and aluminium. It's not the most exciting products that you can kind of design and develop in that. And then we started bringing LED lighting into it, and we started looking at mirrors. How can we have a mirror in a product and all of that? So there was an opportunity as well. There was a company in Switzerland who, I'm a great believer that in every category there needs to be a leader. The guys who are out there, it's like Apple, they're the leaders in all their end, and everybody kind of falls in and looks at what they do. So there was a company in Switzerland, and during the recession, they were the guys everybody looked at, and they'd kind of make products something similar. But they went out of business. So we challenged our own people. So there's no reason why a small company in Kilkenny cannot be a global leader in this business. So there was lots of different things. It was always looking ahead.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. And I suppose, Pete, that's some of the ambition that you saw when you made the initial investment. But how did you get involved in the business in the last 3 years?
Yeah, I guess one of the things that's key to us is we kind of see ourselves as more entrepreneurs than investors, and that's based on our background. And for us, we really want to understand the business. So spending a lot of time with the team in the operations and understanding the fundamental questions of why me? Like, if we're going to win as a business, why is it going to be? And as Michael says, it's not the most sexy business in the world in terms of its glass and aluminium, but we saw it positioned as a kind of a branded consumer good. So we would like to think of ourselves as the AGA of the bathroom. So right through in terms of from a culture, in terms of the people, is there the right people to take the business forward? And we've successfully increased the senior management team by 50% over that kind of 3-year period. Profits doubled, but a lot of it is down to tweaks, right? So we'd see ourselves as being backroom staff, right? So if we take the analogy of on the pitch, the team, and Michael had brought in built a very successful senior management team. They're the team out playing, but they know one thing. They know their business very, very well, but it's to come with different ideas and to look and to tweak it. Again, world class is all about, getting from 85 to 90%, 90% to 95. And that's what we tried to help them with. Some of that was around actually a little bit more focus. So there was lots of ambition and enthusiasm, right? But sometimes that can get you in trouble because you can try and do too many things. So it was about lining up the opportunities and making sure we had these steps, right? And some of the changes we would have made are things like we had a French distribution model that we would have changed because it was something that wasn't going to deliver us the return over time, right? In terms that Michael talked about the channels, very successful at the retail side of things, had kind of half scratched the surface in the merchanting side of things, but weren't present in the spec. So in terms of the whole new build market in the UK. So we were looking at how we target all of these with the right levels of capital investment, but also with the right levels of people and looking at the brands. So Michael talked about having different products for different channels, but it was also important to have different brands, and that's what the company had done. So you don't have kind of price comparisons across different channels. you know, and then we look at actually from a branded side of things, the model was changing. You know, the whole digital marketing and social side of things was changing. Now people weren't just walking into their showroom on a Saturday and trusting you as a salesperson to deliver me the right advice. They were still doing that, but they were checking. They were checking on social and digital, and is this a good brand? Is this the kind of brand I want to invest? Because it's a premium product, you spend a lot of money on it. It's a big investment in terms of as a total proportion of your total spend in the bathroom. So we spent a lot of time with the team in terms of building up the digital presence of the business. And again, we have a digital guru within the Broadlake team that helped with some of that stuff. So it was about really, they were doing a great job on the pitch. How can we look at little things in terms of helping them that might make a difference? And again, the whole time it was very open relationship. So we respected what the guys did on the pitch, right? A bit like John Delaney said this morning in terms of those guys are going to do and those guys are going to do it. So we were kind of in the background, kind of helping them and advising them. And it's been a great journey. It's been a great partnership. But again, it centers around great people.
Yeah, fantastic. And Michael, I suppose when you were here 3 years ago and you were looking at the private equity and people were saying to you the pros and the cons of private equity, how has it been and what was it like to work with the Broadlake guys over the last 3 years?
Yeah, I suppose what I'd say to anybody when you look at private equity, there's different opinions about it out there. And I suppose when I looked at it I've looked at the people more so, and I think where Broadlake are coming from, you know, Pete has been in business and that, like to me, to have that type of being down in the doing the business as well was important. And then I probably looked at it, what could they bring to us, and what they've done. And you know, we would have openly discussed about exit as well. And I was kind of saying, like, what are we not good at? And one of the things was the experience in exiting was basically important, which basically worked out. But it was really the people, you know, and again it was kind of partnership. And I think the trust, like, you know, to me it was important to me. Like some people think when they're bringing in private equity, well, they're going to lose an awful lot. You know, I never thought that for a day. Maybe I was naive, but my attitude is that I liked Pete as a person, and also the actual Broadlake team as well, because they have different people who are professionals in the different areas and that. And no, it's been, I'd highly recommend. But I think it's important that you're going to be working with these people. You're going to be working, and I think trust is huge. You know, like my way of doing business, I'm open. You know, I'd expect those people to be open. If we had issues, put it all out there, so there's going to be no surprises or anything like that. And it's been a very good journey.
Yeah, because look, I guess that you know, an analogy is used for, you know, family businesses, you know, to give away some of their silver and that giveaway part. But you know, with all the activity that there's been in the private equity and development capital market, it is a real proof of concept. This deal from the perspective of entrepreneur and equity coming together and exiting very, very successfully. But that, you know, you're quite a visionary thinker, Michael. I mean, that whole family silver, which is, you know, something that business owners do think about, that's not something that overplayed in your mind.
Yeah, I suppose I came from a family business. Like, there's pros and cons about family business as well. And, you know, I was always open. You know, people talk about family businesses. To me, maybe myself and my wife, we started the business, so it's family, but we grew into a different family, which was the Merlin family, because our people, you know, even when we take on people, we always say, are they a Merlin type of person, was always important to us. So I suppose myself, I probably came to this particular company when I was 50 years of age, so I had a lot of experience in different businesses and saw good things and bad things. And my attitude was that this was going to be a business, and the people who came into it, who drove the business, that I wanted them to feel very part of it, and as if it was their own business.
Yeah.
So I was probably a little bit different than most.
Yeah. Okay. Pete, maybe give us a little bit on the dynamics of the deal.
Yeah, and I guess just on the family business side of things, listen, in 2008, you know, in 2003 I came back from London to take over the running of my in-laws business, so it was kind of at the top of a family business, and we sold it in 2008. And I guess for me, sometimes people believe that the legacy of a business is a positive thing to the next generation. And I just think it's not always the asset. You know, everybody's different. So I have 4 young boys. They're all different, and they'll all go in different directions doing different things, and that's going to be wonderful. And they'll all be kind of their own people. And I think it's important that we don't necessarily think that generationally a business is the right thing to pass down, because sometimes, whilst it might be an asset, it might also be a burden in terms of that burden of expectation in terms of filling shoes. In terms of the transaction, again, I had in selling the business in 2008, the Noonan business, I was trying to run the business and sell it at the same time, right? And that was a real challenge, right? I had M&A experience in the background, but it was a real challenge, the day job and running the process, right? Together with advisors. And I guess one of the things that we would be clear on in everything we do is, how do our skill sets complement the management team, right? Let's not double job here, right? We're all about how can we be efficient. You know, we're not looking over your shoulders. You're good at that. We're good at this. Let's focus on specializing. And in terms of the process, that was the approach we adopted to it. So in terms of from a Broadlake perspective, that was an area where we had expertise. So that was an area where we took the lead. And it meant that the management team could continue to focus on the business. And again, the business is growing well and it's performing well, but you know, it's a senior management team that doesn't have 20 people that you can take 4 people and just stick them on a process for 12 months. So that enabled us to kind of focus on that in terms of from the advisor side of things, from looking at where we went in terms of potential interested parties and the likes, and to find what was the right fit for the business. And that was always key for us, right? In terms of the right fit and the right partner into the future for the business. And I think, ironically, the people that have acquired the business, it's hand in glove strategically. You know, we have shower enclosures, they have taps, showers, tiles, they have everything else in the bathroom. And ironically, our 3-year plan, our 6-year vision as a standalone business was to diversify further, both organically, but predominantly through acquisition, and to move more international. So what these 2 businesses coming together, we're effectively achieving the goal that we had for Merlin on our own, but achieving it a lot quicker. And sometimes I'm a believer there's a right time for a business. You know, there's a right time for a business to kick on to that next level within a bigger organization. And I think if you're open and objective, then you can kind of see those situations where they arise. And here I think it's been a great deal for everybody. It's been a great deal for the company. It's been a great deal for the shareholders. It's really a win-win.
Okay, Michael, just on that point, you know, what does the Norcros deal mean for Merlin and the team there now?
Yeah, I think when you start a business from nothing and you bring it on, I'm a great believer there's different levels. You know, you get a lot of people who start businesses, they can get to a certain level, and I think sometimes ego gets in the way because they think they can do everything. And I suppose in my case is that I'd like to think that I know what my strengths are, but I also like to know what my weaknesses are. I'm not a detailed person. To me, a detailed person is the MD. So it got to a stage where we can stay a little bit in chaos, or do we bring in professional management? So I always kind of looked at that, and I would have brought in a CEO, who's come from the trade business, and you know, again, we were in retail, then we had to move into the trade business, as Pete said, the spec business. I'm a believer as well, you know, in our case is that there's no sense going into a new category with a Me Too product. So we had to come up with new ideas, and we kind of analysed of what could we do differently that would appeal to that segment of the market. So then, as Pete said, I think we're at a stage now for the next level. And we would, like, Norcros came knocking on our door probably 4.5 years ago. And at that time, we weren't in a position to talk. We weren't interested in talking to anybody. But from what we've heard now, they've always kept an eye on us. And I suppose, like, to go from where we are, for Norcros' point of view, we would be the leaders. You know, our biggest competitor is only half our size in the UK. So it was a very good fit. These people were important. Of some very good brands, Triton Showers, Vado, companies that we knew people in those companies that were kind of friends of ours as well. And you know, we were quite happy when we made a decision that we would run with Norcros, because you know their revenue is 240 million. They're saying they want to go to 480. So I see great opportunities for our team is to interlink with the different companies and find. And I've no doubt that some of their companies, when they come to us, they will learn a lot from us as well. So again, I have two sons in the business. It's important for me that it was a good home, and I believe it's a very good home.
Excellent, excellent. Maybe just closing remarks, Pete. What does 2018 hold in store for Broadlake?
Yeah, I think we're very, very positive. So in terms of we have 7 businesses. At the end of next week, the Merlin transaction will complete. We'll have 6 businesses in the portfolio. We continue to have 7 friends, but I think all of the businesses are performing well. We're seeing them doing well. And I think there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of positivities coming out from this conference, and little snippets and ideas from different speakers around different trends. And I think, you know, I'd like to think that I'm fairly open and honest. And I think when I stood here 4 or 5 years ago, I was fairly blunt, and people were maybe a little bit shocked at some of the bluntness. But I would like to say that it's, you know, not from a party political broadcast perspective, but I do think there's good positivity out there. I do think there's lots of capital out there. For me, that wasn't the case 4 or 5 years ago. There's lots of capital. It's about finding the right capital, but also finding the right partner. I think in everything you do, and you had 4 people up here previously, and they've found the right partners. But for everybody, it is a relationship. So if you're taking in capital, it is a relationship. And just make sure that I've always said, listen, you know, what more can you get than capital? So if you take in capital, can you get some help for free to go with the capital, right? And that's just the way I've done it. And we're more interested in, we're not lovers of leverage, despite the fact that there's lots out there today. But we would be positive on our portfolio. We're not big volume deal doers. You know, we've got plenty of capital, but our approach doesn't lead to us doing 3 or 4 deals a year. You won't see that from us, because we can develop the types of relationships and partnerships like with Michael and the team in Merlin. If we have 15 companies in the portfolio. So we'd like to do 1 or 2 deals a year. Are those deals and the right companies out there? Absolutely. And I think it's a great example. Here's a business in Kilkenny nobody knew about, right, until a couple of weeks ago. You know, 85% of the revenues outside of Ireland, 75% of the staff sit in Kilkenny, right? And you drive by them in the industrial estate, right? And I think it's a credit to what they've built, the outward-looking nature of it. And that's what I would encourage the entrepreneurs in the room is you got to be looking outside. You got to be looking outside. And the only way you can do that is get on planes, go places, see what's going on. And I tell you what, there's a lot of Irish entrepreneurs that can really win on an international scale. And because you're an SME, that's not an inhibitor. So I'd be very positive.
Thanks, Pete. Michael, I'll leave the final word to you. What's next now for Michael Hoyne?
Oh, what's next? Yeah, well, it was important to get this over the line, and I didn't want to think about a plan B, but people say you're going to retire in that. And what I like to say is I would like to move and do enjoyable things. You know, there's a lot of good companies, as Pete says, out there, and I think, you know, a small bit of experience can go a long way in a lot of companies out there, and that's probably something what I'd like to get into.
Well, the very best of luck to you both in the future, and round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you.